when we think of the powerhouse of the golf swing, there are three different body segments that we need to think of. The first two I'm going to mention are the pelvis and the shoulders. But, however, the third segment is the connector of these first two segments. What do we think that is? Well, it is our rib cage. Now, why is that? Because our shoulders or our scapular bones on the posterior side or on the back of our rib cage. Then as well, when it comes to connecting our rib cage and our pelvis, our core or our oblique muscles, along with our rectus abdominis, so our main abdominal muscles, connects down to our pelvis. So we see why the rib cage is so important in allowing the pelvis and the shoulders to be functional. Now, why are these considered the powerhouse segments of the golf swing? Well, because they are meant to be mobile and move. So when it comes to mobility, they have a lot of degrees of freedom. And when I say degrees of freedom, I mean different planes of motion. So let's go into the scapula or the shoulders. So the shoulders can flex and extend. So this would be extension and this would be flexion. Then as well, they can also abduct and adduct. So it goes away from and closer to the midline, which is our sternum here. And then as well, they can also rotate internal and externally. And finally as well, they can also protract, so move forward and retract and move back. So that's just the shoulders. Then let's go into the pelvis. The pelvis can flex and extend. As well, the pelvis can rotate, so rotate around. But also, the pelvis can side bend, right? So what I mean by side bend is my left side can get higher as my right side moves lower. So that would be side bend. So that's what my pelvis can do. And then when it comes to our rib cage can flex and extend. Our rib cage can rotate. And as well, our rib cage can side bend, right? So one side getting higher than the left. So that is why those three segments are the powerhouse of the golf swing. But specifically, being able to move the rib cage will allow us to move the pelvis and the shoulders effectively without even really thinking about it. So in this video, we're going to deep dive into how to properly move your rib cage and the exercises you can do to train that within your golf swing so you can have a more efficient golf swing and be more powerful without having much effort. How is the rib cage supposed to function throughout the golf swing to allow our pelvis and our shoulders to be more efficient? Well, let's break this down. And we're first going to start with setup. So if I'm set up from down the line, first, my rib cage would be in a compression state, right? So a lot of times we hear with exercises such as abs or any other exercise is our rib cage to be down, right? And what I mean by down is compressed. So this would be compressed and this would be expanded, right? So compress, expanded, compressed, expanded. So when we're in our golf swing, a lot of times people think that it's supposed to be expansion, but however, with this expansion, it'll be hard to rotate, especially starting that setup. So what we need to do is we need to be in a state of compression here, right? That engages our core and engages our glutes as well, right? So that's how things are connected when it comes to the pelvis and the shoulders. Then as well, so when we move to the backswing, put this club down here. So we're going to go in phases. So for the backswing, if I'm in a compressed state, the first thing that's going to happen is my rib cage is going to move back, right? So we'll move this way to the right. So I'll move back, then it'll move up, and then it'll move around, right? And so now I have my full shoulder turn, right? And as you can see, my shoulders are turned, but also as well, my hips are already starting to turn. But I'm not thinking about my hips right now. All I'm doing is worrying about my rib cage. So then from the top, after this, then my rib cage moves forward, right? So it moves forward, then it moves down, right? So now I'm going from compressed to expanded, and then now I'm going back into compression. So down and forward, and then around. Now, as you can see, with just my rib cage moving like this, now my pelvis is starting to move forward now, right? And then from there, as I go back up on the follow through, I'm moving into expansion again. So now it's going to move up, forward, and around. And this is my finish right here. So as you can see, all I was worrying about is the movement of my rib cage. And in unison, my pelvis and my shoulders, so bottom and top, were moving in cohesiveness with my rib cage. So to break it down more simply, here's how I'm going to explain how the rib cage moves. So again, when we're setting up, we're in a state of compression, right? So not expanded, we're in a state of compression here, right? So my rib cage is down. So I kind of like to visualize it as if I'm plugging in, right? So let's say if this is my pelvis and this is my rib cage, I'm plugging in right here. Now I'm set to go. So once I'm in this state, then as I move in the backswing, as I go back, up and around, I'm actually going to be in a state of expansion, right? So, because I'm not going to keep compressing, because I have to move up and around. So that expansion allows my rib cage to move back, and then allows me to turn, right? So it'll be this way. So it feels like my chest is getting a little bit bigger. So it'll be from here to there. And that allows you to turn in the backswing. So if I'm up top, then from here, then I'm going back into a state of compression. So this is compression. It'll feel like I'm doing a crunch, right? So going into a state of compression, moving forward, down and around, and then back into my follow through, I move back into expansion. So up, forward, and around. So that's how the rib cage is simply supposed to move. Now, what I'm going to do is give you a drill that you can do in order to be able to apply this within your golf swing. And you don't even need the golf club. So stay tuned and we'll get into this. I hate to admit this, that I was once in your shoes where I was scrolling on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok on the latest golf tip to help me improve my golf game. Did that work for me? Maybe for about a few days or a week, but it never helped me improve long term. So what I learned and what you need to learn is that you need to know what your body can do physically and also what your most optimal golf swing is to help you improve your golf game. So how does that come into picture with me? Well, I will help you to understand your most optimal golf swing using both a TPI physical assessment to see what you can do physically, along with Sportsbox AI technology to help you to understand what your body is currently doing, and then also tracking the progress of specific parameters that we focus on to help you to improve your golf game. Ready to take action to improve your golf game on a long-term basis? Comment down below the word assess and let's get started. Now, here's the drill that I want you to do to understand the movement of how your rib cage is supposed to work. And before we start, simply, when it comes to side bend of our rib cage, right? So as you can see, as one contracts or shortens and compresses, another side expands and vice versa. So when it comes to our golf swing, here's what I want you to do. This will be called the hand laser drill. And I want you to put your hands in this direction beside your rib cage, so on the right and left side. And then so we're going to get in that state of compression, right? So not expansion, but compression here. And then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move back first, right? So rib cage moves back. Then it'll move up then it'll move around. So, and if you feel your hands on your sides, you'll see that my left side is compressing or shortening, right? So this would be my left oblique here along with my intercostal muscles. And our intercostal muscles are the muscles in between our ribs. So my left side is compressing as my right side expands, right? And that gives us that spiral type of coil within our backswing. So left side compresses, right side expands. And that's all the way to the top of the backswing as we keep turning. Then, as we keep our hands on our sides, now as we go back into compression, as we move down and forward, now we're moving towards shortening or contracting our right side, right? So now our our right intercostal muscles and our right oblique is now going to shorten as our left side expands. So as you go down and forward and around, now this right side starts to shorten as this left side expands. And then as we move into the follow through, as we expand, as you keep your hands on your side, then the left side keeps expanding, and then the right side expands as our rib cage is expanding in general. So again, if we get our hands on our sides, as we move back, up and around, this left side is shortening, so you see how it's a little bit lower as this right side expands. Then move down, we're moving into a state of where they're both equal, right? So they're both compressing. But then as we move towards here, towards impact, then this left side is getting higher and this right side is getting lower, right? And then they both expand and extend up. So I want you to use that drill because this drill will help you to feel the lengthening and the shortening of each sides of your rib cage. And as you can see, that'll give you the flow to be able to move your rib cage with more freedom and then effectively move your shoulders and your pelvis effectively. So now what I'm going to do is get into some physical exercises that you can do to improve the movement of your rib cage. And the reason why this is so important is because if we think about daily life when it comes to golfers or just people in general, is that we're always sitting down on a computer, driving in a car, and our posture is bad. So usually we're always in a state of compression, right? And we know the body is all about equilibrium. So we can't be in one position for long. But being in the car, sitting down, looking at our phones, we're always in a state of compression. And then so with that, that shortens these intercostal muscles from not being able to expand. So if you ever find that sometimes that your breath is shortened, it's because of always being in a constant state of compression and not being able to expand. So what we're going to do is be focusing on some breath work exercises, and then along with an exercise to strengthen the sides of your rib cage and your obliques to help you have a more efficient golf swing. Now we're going to get into the breath work exercises to improve the movement and the functionality of your rib cage, and then we'll get into how to strengthen the sides of your rib cage and also those core muscles on the sides, which is the obliques. So here's the first exercise that I want you to do. So all it is we're going to be doing some breathing exercises. So I want you to take a mat or just get on the ground, and I want you to have your knees up and have your back flat on the ground. Then from here, first I want you to make sure that you're in a little bit state of compression, so activating that core. Because a lot of times we can have our lower back off the bottom of the floor, and then that's not going to activate our core. So I want you to have it flat on the ground. Then from here, all we're going to do is take some 4-second inhales and exhales, and you'll be specifically breathing through your stomach and your nose. So you're not mouth breathing, through your nose and your stomach. So first we're going to inhale, right? So if I'm start, that would be at the top. You can see how I can barely talk. Then compressing. Then go again. In a state of expansion. So this is what the expansion is in the backswing. then compression. Then one more time, state of expansion. Inhale through the nose, and then we're going to exhale through our mouth. So, and it wouldn't be a wide mouth, it will be narrow. So again, we inhale through our stomach and our nose. Exhale through our mouth. Try that one more time. So inhale. Inhale. Then exhale. So when you look there, what you should see is that my stomach is getting bigger, right? And that's expanding my rib cage, right? And then from there, as I move it and it gets smaller, then I'm compressing it. And that is the flow that we want in our golf swing. So when it comes to the backswing, we're going to be inhaling, right? That's that expansion. And then as we come, we're going to be exhaling and then inhaling again. So that's the sequence in terms of breath work, how your rib cage is supposed to work. And that allows, so that inhale and exhale is able to move the rib cage more functionally. So now let's talk about how to strengthen the sides of our rib cage, right? So that's one side compressing and contracting as another one lengthens. So this exercise that I want you to do is called side plank rotations. So I want you to get into a side plank position. So it will be this way here. So my elbow will be on the ground about at 90 degrees. And then as well, what I'm going to do is have my feet on top of each other, and I'm going to raise my hips up. Now, in this position, right, my left side of my rib cage is shortened and my right side is lengthened, right? And so what I want you to do is take your arm and I want you to rotate into compression on this left side. And then as you move up, you'll be moving into expansion. So compress, expand, compress, expand. And then you would do that on the other side as well. So this time, it will have that right side compressed and shortened as the left side is lengthened. So then, compress, expand, compress, expand, compress, expand. So after doing the breath work and getting your rib cage to have more mobility, then when we strengthen the muscles on our rib cage, so our intercostal muscles along with our oblique muscles, then that'll really allow us to have that mobility and stability we need to be able to coil properly, to connect our pelvis and our shoulders, and to have that more slingshot effect with our golf swing instead of feeling like we're having to muscle everything and not being efficient. And that's how even smaller guys, say like Justin Thomas, can bomb it, is because this rib cage moves so effectively. And then when we look at the pelvis and shoulders, they seem like they're effortless. So getting this center point, the rib cage, to move functionally will help you to have a more efficient golf swing and also have less aches and pains. So work on those exercises and work on those drills to move your rib cage more effectively and have a better golf swing. Hope you have a good one.